Thomas, I think, can't unmute himself, so I don't know if you have who has control, but
Oh, I just figured it out. Thank
okay,
you.
great.
Thanks, Effie.
Yeah.
The YouTube is live.
Wonderful. Thanks everyone for joining the first Communications and Public Outreach Committee meeting of the year. It's great to see everyone, a lot of new faces, old faces, and we're going to spend tonight thinking through brainstorming ways that we can better communicate both internally as a community board, but also externally with our community and beyond. So first, I'll do a roll call and see just to confirm who is attending from the Communications Committee. So Chair, which is Hugh Ma, present. Katie Ellman.
Present.
Amin. Not present. Andreas.
Here.
Thank you. Patricia. Not present. And Thomas Wright.
Present.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So, as I said, the goal of tonight is to brainstorm. And we may not make any big decisions tonight, but I think given the new direction, we have a new board chair this year, with a lot of new great ideas. It's a good idea to see what is everyone thinking and what are some ways that we can think about implementing them possibly over the summer or second half of the year. So the agenda is pretty loosely structured. I thought first we can talk about how we communicate externally. And this includes things like calendar, our website, our mailing list, and how we do outreach when it comes to like beyond the community, beyond the website and our listserv. So I think I'll start with some thoughts on the calendar. So just speaking to other board members, I think the number one piece of feedback I hear is that there is no simple to use calendar that we can go to or add to our own Outlook, Gmail, iPhone, whatever, so that we can stay up to date with all the meetings that are going on. So I agree with this. I'm just wondering how others on the line feel about potentially adding something like this to the CP1 website infrastructure.
I love this idea. I'm sorry, I'm driving and I can't raise my hand, so I'm sorry for interrupting. But I think this is a great idea, and it's relatively simple to implement. And I think it's well past time to do this as a way to simplify things on the office, for the office, and also for all of us that are trying to juggle meetings in our lives to be able to integrate it, as you said, Hugh, into our regular calendars. But yes, I'm in full support of that.
Thank you, Katie. I will pass it to Thomas because I think Thomas was about to speak. And then Andreas.
Oh, yeah. I'm on my phone, so I have no idea how to raise my hand. So I apologize. But I have one concern about, I think that we have to be mindful of managing the information share as far as Google Calendars, because, for example, there are many committees. This is a very busy board. There are many meetings. My calendar is already quite busy. And if I download or whatever you do to a Google Calendar, and download all of those scheduled events onto my calendar, I believe it will simply be overwhelming each month because so many of them don't apply to me. I really would, I enter my own based on what Florence sends out, the announcements. I just enter those in my computer and try to make them recurring when I can. Because if we put everything globally that the community board does on one Google Calendar and then upload it into or add it to our own Google Calendar so that we can see everything the board does, I believe that's somewhat, it's a little too much for me. So I would just like to be that voice of kind of balance there.
Understood. And I think your concern is valid. I think the reason why a centrally managed calendar, I think would be helpful is because I have done the same thing you have and added a recurring meeting to my calendar. I added the transportation meetings to my calendar, but oftentimes they get moved or there's a holiday and I forget to update that. So I have showed up for a meeting that didn't exist before. So I think having a source of truth would be a great step forward in terms of calendar management. I would just like to share something really quickly. I'm not sure. I will take over the screen and to share with this is the CB2 calendar that they have on their website. And I think one thing that stood out for me is to your point, Thomas, there are a lot of committees, but you can also set up time and attach it to a specific committee. So if I were to add this in my Google Calendar, I could say, just add the transportation committee and just add the budget committee. So your personal calendar would not get clogged up with everything.
That's very important to me. We didn't have that. That seems like a elegant fix.
Okay. So I think Andreas is next.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that visual there, because that's essentially what I was going to suggest. I think something like integrated directly into the website that you could just quickly reference something visual instead of like looking at, the dates of each committee like written down, and then you have to go check your calendar, see that a Monday, Tuesday, like what part of the month it is. It's a lot easier to be able to manage that visually. So something like integrated in the website, like you showed CB2 doing, maybe something a little bit larger, but I think that would be very helpful. And I think it makes it more easily digestible for those who aren't as familiar with how the, board works.
Thanks, Andreas. Katie?
I think Evie was before me.
Oh.
But
That's okay, Katie. Go ahead. Go.
Okay. So I think there's obviously two different calendar topics here. There's an external facing calendar that will be on the website that, will be fed information from, I'm assuming, a member of board staff or someone from this committee, obviously TBD, but there's also our internal communications. And I think I support at an external facing and an internal facing calendar, but I think for me, in regards to managing time and keeping across meetings, is this internal calendar that we can use also. And to the point of feeling bogged down or not wanting information for things that we're not privy to or aren't on the committee for, I think to that point, it's you either opt in or you don't. I just think there are more options, and I would hate, if you don't want to opt into the calendar, fine. I just think that there are other ways to do things that we should have a big net to be able to catch as many members of the community, and also to keep our board members informed, connected, and engaged. Because right now, like speaking from my experience, collectively, I don't feel like there is cohesion. And I think this committee can actually build rapport in these small ways. Yeah, so that's my thoughts about that. But I think it would be something that you opt in for, to the point about being having your personal calendar being
Yeah,
overwhelmed.
and I think it would be opt-in. It's purely optional. I do have a question on relatively new to the board. Internal calendar versus an external calendar. What specifically are the differences there? Because I just may not be knowledgeable.
We don't really have, in terms of like a actual like grid, like you just showed for CB2, like
Mhm.
that. We don't have either. So we don't
Okay.
have, you know, we don't have either. I think what I just went to look at the CB2 website. I have seen it before, and I actually think it's good to have this. Anyone can go and view this calendar no matter who you are, right? So you can
Mhm.
go and then see what's happening, for that month. I can do that as a board member. A member of the public could do it. And then I could click on, let's just say June 11th, arts and culture, and then there's the agenda and there's the Zoom link, and it's like all there. So that's great. Obviously, so I also like that as well. It's like the Zoom link is there, the agenda is there, and I can just go right to that calendar. And then if I want to add that to my Google Calendar or whatever calendar I have, then I just click on the bottom, right? Add Google Calendar, and then I can do that as a board member if I want, for whichever committee I want or whatever meetings I want, right? So I don't even know if you need to have two different calendars. It's really just one.
Yeah, and
you know.
just to illustrate the point that Evie was just making, how if I were to click this meeting tomorrow, you could have a direct link to the Zoom and the agenda, and I could copy this specific event to the calendar, or I can copy, entire committee calendar to my calendar as well. So there's some flexibility there. Any other?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say the only thing that would, the Zoom link, that's the public Zoom link, right? So if you're a panelist, you would still have to, get the
Understood.
link sent through email.
Understood.
Or you just get promoted when you're in the meeting by whoever the chair is.
I see.
Lawrence, yeah.
That's a good point. Thank you. I don't see any more hands up right now, or does anyone have any other questions, concerns?
I have a
Yep.
question.
Mhm.
What's our mission of this committee? To help me understand just what.
Yeah, I think the mission is just to improve how we communicate, how we interact. Number one, as a board internally, but also to externally.
Within the board.
Within and also outside of the board.
Meaning, is our effort to encourage more communication with the community that we serve in order to engage them more? Is that what we're looking to do?
Not necessarily communicate more, but definitely engage the community better in different ways, and meet them where they are. So, yeah. Any other thoughts here? Okay, great. So I think as an action item, I will talk offline with the board office to see what are some things that we can do over the summer. Seems like everyone's pretty Florence, would you?
Yeah, I can do this over the summer. This is easy.
Okay. Love to hear that. Thank you. Moving on to the second topic, which is about the website. And I think we're using the standard New York City Community Board website. It's fine. No issues with it. from a technical perspective. I think some feedback that I've heard from others, both on the board and outside of the board, it's hard to know when the next community board meeting is. So when you go to the page, you can click through.
When you go to the calendar page,
Yeah.
it's listed annually. Go to the calendar
Right.
page right here. It's all
Yep.
listed annually.
Understood. I do think that that kind of information is worthy to be put on the homepage. So you get to the CP1 page, you don't have to go anywhere else. You know exactly when and where, and also what is going to be discussed in the next community work page.
Can I speak for a moment? Is that okay? Through the chair?
I think you can. Sure.
Okay. I just want to let you know, because I haven't been asked any questions. Our office uses the website daily with the public. Whenever somebody calls my office, for example, and they're complaining about a building next door to them, we'll take them to the useful links. We'll teach them either how to use Zola or how to use Zap, or if they have a question about collecting their sanitation, we'll use that calendar. On the bottom of the page, the home page, some of the biggest questions we get asked about is about housing. So the programs and initiatives are used regularly. Also, we have people who sign up for our constant contact on the home page. So the home page is utilized on a daily basis, the way it's set up right now. And you also have the display of the Twitter account.
Understood.
The other
Great.
page that is used regularly throughout the day is the resources page, the calendar page and the resources page. The resources page provides you all of our elected officials, and we use that on a regular basis. Okay, and then the calendar page we also use every day on the regular basis. The only
Understood.
page that we don't use regularly is the committees page. That's just giving you individuals who are on the committees, the chairs of committee, whatever it is. I don't even remember because I use it so seldom. But
Understood.
those things are used. The calendar page is used daily, the home page is used daily, and the about page is used quite regularly. That's used because we get a lot of students who have programs that they have to do interviews for the board office, and they have to do studies. So we'll take them to the homepage. We'll go down to the bottom under the overview. At here, visit our community profile. This gives all the information about our community board. This gives the mistake they made in 2010 about the census. And then, of course, you have your neighborhood development area profiled here. So
Understood.
this is used incredibly.
Thank you.
So this is, I just want you to know this is a working tool.
Understood. Thank you. I appreciate that context. Does anyone have any thoughts on how the website could possibly be improved or structured to better serve?
Well, I have a question. So do we have the analytics on how much, how many people go to each page?
No, the
Okay,
city, we've never
how do you know which one is used the most?
I use it. My staff
okay.
use it on a daily basis, frequently.
Okay. I think we were talking about externally how people see the website.
Yeah. So I do think that would be interesting to know, to understand. I'm not sure if, it seems basic enough, but you never know with these sort of things if it's easy to add or pull that sort of analytics. Katie.
Florence, do you update the content, or is it someone at another city office that's updating content?
It's a collaboration. In order for the community board not to ever get sued, this is a New York City website. So we have a tech master at the city that we send everything to. So for example, let's say tomorrow I had to send out an agenda for 2 weeks, right? I have to send everything out 7 to 10 days prior to a meeting. So it's 8 days prior to the meeting. I'm sending the agenda out. It goes to somebody over at the agency and they post it. When it's posted, they notify us. We go in and check it. And
Okay.
this is to protect us from legal ramifications. And we have been audited on the website, so we have to be very careful what we do. And other boards have used programs which have caused problems to the city, and they're under investigation as we speak. So,
Got it. Thank
And
you.
then I have one more question. Sorry, Hugh. It has to do with accessibility protocols for the website. And I am not in a position to look at the website right now, but I would, at least if there aren't
yeah,
necessary changes, is that icon there for people to
yes.
click on? Okay,
So,
thank you.
so we got audited about approximately 4 years ago, and we have one of the most resourceful websites in the city of New York, the Programs and Initiatives page. We are one of the only boards that have every single program and initiative that the city of New York has to offer. At the bottom, there's a little black box that says more, and it takes you to every initiative. We got audited. The city uploads the programs, or their city agency programs, and the city was not compliant. So I got written up because the city wasn't compliant, and I raised a ruckus, and now allegedly all of them are compliant to city resources because of the fact that the audit proved that the city wasn't living up to their obligations.
Okay. Thanks for that context. I think using the city website, continuing to use the city website makes sense. I'm a software developer, and I understand that like there's always all these different things that come up, especially the standards are different as well when it comes to government technology. Anyone have specific thoughts on the website? Anyone else? I mean,
I would just like to answer the question about accessibility. I'm sorry, the person who's driving and asked, I'm so sorry, I forgot
Katie.
your name. But there is the text, Katie, there is at the top right hand, since you can't see, there's a translation button and there's a text size button, which would allow for visually impaired or people who speak languages other than English to select and to access the information that's there. I'm not sure if there's anything else for accessibility that you were thinking about, but those two are there.
I don't want to belabor this, and I'm sorry. I was thinking about that, but also the use of color. And there are other things that I can email Hugh and he can pass on to the group.
Okay.
But yes, thank you for that.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other specific thoughts on the website?
Yeah, I still can't raise my hand, and
I think the
I know
picture,
that there's
picture I've
other
ever seen. Hold on.
there's other board members on here too who maybe
Okay, I
can't raise their
will
hands.
open my chat.
Okay,
Um,
thanks. I mean, I don't know if they want to, but I think it's just, they might not be able to. I mean, I think the content, there's like lots of content on here, which is good, but I think things could be rearranged possibly. I think if we kind of looked at it a little bit more, like if maybe there a takeaway from today too is to kind of for people to kind of really look at this, because we might have some general comments, but I think kind of looking at how things could be rearranged. I don't see any like community organizations or resources listed here. Do you know what I mean? So it's like if someone did want to kind of know what are the other, obviously there's the community board, but like where can I go to get, services, other organizations, like that might be useful. I think some other boards do that as well. I think this just might be something that we kind of give a little more thought to because there is a lot on the website. And then even just thinking about, again, how things are arranged, right? Like you have to go to about to find out how to contact the community board office. Like to me, I also think like that's important information that you should see when you open the homepage. I feel like that's pretty standard too. So I just think there's like maybe just some little tweaks that could be made. Again, like it took me a while to like figure out where is the contact on here. Because even if I scroll to the bottom, it's not there. I contact NYC government, but it's not contact the board office. And I think most people, when they're looking to call someplace or email someplace, that should be right there on the homepage also. So just a few little, just quick comments, I think, from me. Again, to just facilitate the public being able to access the information.
Thanks. I agree with that. At least for the content. Yeah. So maybe Evie.
You know, I think what we're dealing with is a question of. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
I've done some website development, and I do not program. I've just worked in organizations who have gone through their website before, and it's interesting to me that we're discussing this as we are. About 2 years ago, I think that I was involved in an organization, a not-for-profit, that had a website very much like this that was developed kind of in the first, second generation website design where you had to click through, and people were accustomed to that, like multi-click website things. And now I think in the more modern websites, you have one page, you scroll down, all of the information is there, far fewer clicks are necessary, and there are less tabs. Like you don't see that with a more modern designed website. So I think that's what we're kind of wrestling with. But because it is a governmental organization, things move more slowly.
Yep.
Certainly, I think the contact information should be on the front page.
Thank you, Thomas. Canella?
Hi, I was also driving. I couldn't say anything. I'm parked now. Do we have anything would we want to put things on the website about like upcoming parades and things like that? Like, this Sunday is the LGBT parade, and then we have the other parades coming up in September. And is that something that we could put on the website, since it is a public website? Is that something that's on there?
I think I would have to defer to Florence.
Those items aren't in if they're in our district, yes. If they're not in our district, we wouldn't put them. That could go on the announcements. That could go on the announcements tab. We could do something like that on the announcements tab. But if it wasn't in our district, it wouldn't go in.
Yeah, and I think that.
And they would have to notify us. They would have to let us know. There are a lot of times where there are things and they don't contact the office and give the information. So the outreach would have to occur.
Understood. Thank you. So I think, so what I've heard so far is, number one, there could be more information that could be surfaced more directly to whoever's visiting the website, whether that's contact information, whether that is when the next meeting is happening, when the next general board meeting is happening, and possibly other neighborhood events within our district as well. And that could maybe go in an announcement tab. Any other thoughts on the website? Okay, so the next item under external communications would be the mailing list. So I believe we have a a mailing list on Constant Contact as managed through a third party. To my knowledge, that is only used to send announcements, meeting announcements, and not used for any other purposes.
Can I jump in again?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Florence?
May I jump in again through the chair?
Yes, please.
So when my predecessor was the district manager and my predecessor retired, we had no forward-facing email at all. The only email we had were the emails for the board members. So the only way of creating a forward-facing email list was to do it this way at that time. Because we were told that we could not have somebody call and we could not enter their email into a site. So the easiest way was to use Constant Contact and to have people go to our site. And we've been relatively successful with it. And we do a good amount of outreach with it. So it's been beneficial to the board for the forward-facing emails to the public. Whenever people call the office, I encourage them to sign up for the regular USPS mail and for the Constant Contact. It's been relatively good. We've gotten a substantial amount of sign-ons.
And do we have an idea of how many people are on that list?
I can get that for you. Whatever it is, and I accept it. I never checked. I can get that number for you though.
Great, thank you. And just to confirm, we don't use it for anything other than meeting announcements. Is that correct?
We haven't had a need to. I mean, recently, Elizabeth Arian, the Land Use Committee Chair, created a public hearing notice. We used it for that, but we haven't had a need to. There's never been a request to, so there hasn't been. No, it hasn't been.
Understood.
I think we could be using it a little more than just sending out notices. There could be, I know some other boards have a newsletter that they send out. You know,
I have a
every so
question
often.
now.
I'm sorry.
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt. Please forgive me.
And even, you know, sending out the agendas is fine, but it's just the agendas, right? So it's the uploaded agendas. But we do get notices about things happening, you know, tomorrow, the Triborough, you know, playground, there's like a parks meeting that's happening. You know, if I assume we get things with enough advance notice that if we did, you know, a newsletter twice a month or something like that, things like that could go in it as well. And that could be something the comms committee takes on. Wouldn't have to be more work for the district office, but putting that some kind of newsletter together, I just think is helpful because a lot of people don't see our social media or it's not consistent in terms of how it's posted as well. But if someone is on our email list, they are, you know, they're opting in to kind of receive communication from us. And the more they know about what's happening, I think the better.
I agree with you there, Evie. I think there's an opportunity to engage the community in different ways there. A newsletter definitely sounds interesting. Twice a month, maybe it depends on who is putting that together. But I think there are things that we can do just beyond just sending out the notices. I think, to me, whatever sort of notice or event that is forwarded to the board is probably relevant for this mailing list. I think there's probably a big overlap. Does anyone have any thoughts on kind of leveraging the mailing list to do outer neighborhood kind of outreach like that? Okay. If there's no other thoughts here, we can move on to the next item. And I think Florence and I will talk offline to see like what are some options here in the near term without committing to any sort of additional work that this committee has to take on in the form of a newsletter. So the last item when it comes to external communication is outreach. And I think the board office does do some amount of outreach in the form of Twitter and Facebook, posting it on the accounts. I think so much of the world is online nowadays and not necessarily just following our Twitter, X, or Facebook accounts. So I think there's probably more that we could do. And I think one thing that I noticed actually last week, Evie posted in the Astoria-centric Facebook group, basically just sharing the word that we had the CB1 general board meeting last week. So I think that's an example of really proactive, low effort outreach that can help us better integrate us with the community. So just wondering if anyone had any thoughts there, if this is something that we should operationalize.
I mean, I don't want to keep talking. I want to have the committee members
That's
talk, but yeah.
I mean, you're welcome to go if no
Yeah,
no one else
I
is.
mean, I would like to know just what our social media impressions are and what our reach is. Again, looking at like our analytics, you know what I mean, to see whether or not people are paying attention, because engagement like is important in how you use social media. You want to use it for engagement. So if it's not getting a lot of impressions, if people aren't really seeing it, then we need to see how we can drive that engagement, you know, even more. And we should be using Instagram. It's like really good for sharing information as well. And especially in this community, it's used to share a lot of information. So I, you know, and then also like what is our, you know, not that we have to do a social media calendar, but like, are we doing things consistently and posting consistently? Because that's also important as well.
Yeah.
So again, I think that's something that we could do like a deeper dive into to just figure out how to use those tools as effectively as possible to kind of reach the public and inform them of what's going on.
I see. Yes, I agree. Thank you. Florence, to your knowledge, is there,
Sorry.
yeah, who owns the keys to all of these
I do.
accounts? You do. Okay.
All in my
And
name.
I see. Okay.
So can I say something here also? So when I became district manager, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter. I just started Instagram last year. I was diagnosed with nodules in my lungs and I thought I had cancer, and then I broke my leg. So the Instagram didn't move because I had serious health issues. So that's why it got stagnant. We are one of the most forward-facing in Queens on Facebook and Twitter. I can guarantee that I'm on Facebook and Twitter 4 days a week. And for the most part, I'm consistent unless some kind of an emergency or something comes up. The account is very consistent. The Instagram is a little wonky, I'm not going to lie. And we have had a lot of New York City server issues this year, which normally don't happen. It has nothing to do with the computers in the office. The computers themselves function well. It's the city server coming in with the stuff. Recently, I'm sending out emails, and when I send an email, for example, to Evie, I can't see the sent email for at least 3 hours. And sometimes I'm double sending to cover myself. The tech guy came in, he fixed it. But what you all need to realize is that the city is behind on services when it comes to tech. So sometimes you want to do something, and with all best intentions, you can't do it. Again, I would like to be very careful with whatever we do with the website. I'm up for every summer I update the website, I do something new, and I find it to be exciting. But I just want to be careful because we do get audited. And at the end of the day, if we get audited, you, the board members, are not liable. It's in my name. I'm the one who's liable. So
yeah,
we have to also remember that we're non-political. So
understood.
Yeah.
Appreciate the context. And I think, when it comes to starting up the Instagram, I think we're here to help. And so if there's things that we can do over the summer to sort of get that process started, I think there's a lot of lot of time left in the year to sort of build that muscle. And I'm sure before you know it, it'll be part of our suite of outreach. There's also a lot of tools nowadays that we can leverage that makes social media easier. And that's something that we could possibly investigate as well. Yes, anyone else have any ideas?
I have a question or
Mhm.
comment. I guess it would be good, at least for the chair, you know what our backgrounds are. I have a lot of communications experience with
Mhm.
newsletters, with building websites, with CRM, all of those things. So I would like to offer that knowledge and skill set to the board of office and the committee as a way to build out these things, to be a support system, and to also just ensure that things are smooth. And to your point about using additional tools, scheduling tools, posing tools for social media posts, like there are things that are little to no cost that are very easy to use for people that may not be that experienced. And, you know, I'm on this committee because I care about this work, and I was like, you know, I just want to share my knowledge and the resources that I know with the board. And thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I think we will definitely be taking you up on that offer, and we will be relying on your wealth of expertise. The goal is not necessarily to do more work; it's just to improve the way we do things. And I think there's a lot of tooling, or just best practices that will ideally make the board office's life easier. So, yeah, I think. We're on a good start here.
Yeah, I just want to add, just like at you know, at different companies or nonprofits or whoever kind of, you know, does social media, is that there's always social media guidelines, and often more than one person does it as well, but you kind of adhere to the
Mhm.
guidelines. And that is also something that is possible, you know, that
Yes.
when you have a committee that, you know, there are people who help with the social media as well, who have the, you know, the expertise or the time or the desire to kind of help with that as well. And you follow guidelines, and that's kind of like how it works. And there's nothing to
Yes.
prohibit that as well with community boards.
Okay, that's great to know. I agree with that. I love to post, so happy to spend some time there. But also, I think it's just better to not, I wouldn't say a single point of failure, but just to put everything on Florence and her team. We have such a big community board. We have this committee. We should share a little bit, develop ways to sort of lessen the work going forward. I do like the idea of social media guidelines. Just, I think we'll propose a sort of framework, and that we can discuss in a future meeting. Anyone else with any thoughts here? Okay, so that wraps up our first part, which is about external communication. Now we're going to move on to internal communication. And the first point I have here is about emails. And everybody sends them, everybody gets them, very useful. I think I have heard some feedback that the volume is sometimes a little high, and that noise does make it hard for board members to pay attention to the emails or the messages that really matter. And I did look in my inbox just to see, like, just to try to quantify it. So in May, from the board CV1 email account, we had 35 emails, and in June, we had 49. So not a small amount. We do have a lot of meetings, a lot of committees. We're doing a lot of work. So it does make sense. I think, what are some ways that we can sort of reduce that number so that we're not losing any important messages in the noise? And I do think that if we were to move to a calendar method with something you can subscribe to online, it's opt-in. You can set up reminders so that you automatically receive an email notification or something that the board office does not have to send. So like the day of notifications is something that we could probably remove once we've transitioned to a calendar model. So that's just one idea here. I'm curious if anyone has any ideas when it comes to the emails. Katie?
I would agree that the volume it's sometimes overwhelming for me, and it does make it hard, especially when it's meeting reminders and they kind of get grouped together in your email when the subject line is the same or similar. I think it's difficult to keep track of what's happening and when. So the point about calendar system would be beneficial. I would opt into it and utilize it, and I would love it. And I'm wondering, and I might be getting too far ahead, if we can, as a board, can use Slack or WhatsApp as a way to communicate internally to not bog down people's email accounts. I just wish that there was a way, and obviously that would have to be, you would have to opt into it as well. For those but I think that would be an easier way with Florence and Evie being obviously probably in every channel for the committees, but a way that we could communicate and share information in a faster and easier way. Alerts immediately go to your phone if you have them turned on. I just been trying to think beyond email. How can we, as a community board, communicate with one another, the members?
That makes sense to me. I'm sure there's some complexities when it comes to like public records laws and things like that. But I think that I do like the idea of thinking beyond just email, especially since it is not the most instant form of communication that we have available to us nowadays. I think.
Sorry, I have one other question, and I guess for the board office, can we, for those that would opt in, is there a way to text board members that would like messages that way? I know it's usually an additional cost.
I do not have a city phone, so that is not an option.
No, you do it from whatever platform that you use. It's not
from Outlook.
Phone. Yeah, you could do it from Outlook. You could do it from.
I'll look into it.
It's mostly through the website that you're able to then send.
I'll look into it.
Like, okay, so that would be like I would opt into all of these things, but I know that not everyone wants.
Can I make a suggestion? Piggybacking on what Katie said, but I know it's still staying within the email realm, but I said this to Marie many, many years ago when she first became chair. I would have loved to see all the board members, every time you become a board member, you have a Gmail only for the community board, and it doesn't melt into your personal email. So that what would happen is, so it would be Katie at 401.gmail.gov, whatever it is, Katie 401. 401 is our number. And if everybody had a 401 at gmail.com, all your emails in that email would only be board business. and you would not have, you know, the inundation in your private emails. So we have 50 members, it would be 50 401 accounts. And then when you leave, you could delete your account, close your account, and when you get new members, they could open their own 401 account.
I think
And this way,
that
it would be condensed. You would
I
only
think
have 50 a month.
that would probably, I think, exchange. It's a trade-off, and I think the volume of emails probably would not change. It's more so where they go, and it's a matter of checking two places for email versus just checking one place. So I don't think that does you know, it's a solve maybe, but maybe not the ideal one. I think as a relatively new board member myself, I am also sometimes find myself wanting to communicate with other members outside of the community boards, and for example, like trying to come up with this meeting agenda. I would have loved to just email the committee and ask them, what are your thoughts? What should I put on the agenda?
That's coming. Evie created a list, and the list is going out the end of this week. We're inundated right now with capital and expense budget, last minute orders and stuff. We have reached out to a group of board members who didn't respond. I'm having a really bad problem with responses. I have 25 out of 50 members that didn't turn in their EEO. I have I think it was about 10 members that didn't sign up or didn't sign off of the mail list. And I have another item, I don't remember what it was, but I didn't get back minutes for
All
all
right,
the.
let's just focus on the
I wanna
opt.
hear
I know, but we shouldn't really be talking about all the other things that board members didn't do
But-
right now.
But
The
no, I
point
want,
is with the opt-in form, like that has, and I said this to you, like if people haven't responded, then we're done. Send
I
it.
got
We
it.
can
Yeah, I
send
got
it
it
out.
today. You got the message today, and it's going to go out this week. As I said, it's been, I just want him to be aware. So for example, when you look at the emails, right now, nobody was in at this meeting at 6:30. I sent out a friendly reminder just to the committee because, and I think Richard Kuzami is on here. He will attest to how many committee meetings we haven't had enough people turning up. And you know, I hear you, I respect you, and I honor what you're saying. But the truth is, if you don't prod people, they don't show
Okay,
up.
Florence. Okay, Florence.
I'm just
I
sharing
do.
with you, please.
Yeah, I thank you, Florence. I agree with you, and I appreciate you for saying that at email. I think there are times when you do need to kind of, you know, send that extra email. I think there is probably certain messages or notices that we could probably that are sort of on the margin that maybe we don't need to send. So I think so Evie, do you have any more thoughts? I feel like interrupting you.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, and that there are gonna be people who might not want to do Google Calendar, or they're just not there. They might not,
Mhm.
you know, and that's gonna be fine too, right? So we do need to still send out an email notice to folks as well.
Yes.
You know, whether there needs to be, you know, when something gets amended, again, if you
Mhm.
just have it on that calendar page, you amend it on the calendar page, you don't then have to send an email out. People can just
I
go
agree
there.
with that.
It'll be updated. It'll be refreshed as it goes on. So,
The
you know, I
older
think
folks-
there's ways to kind of cut down the emails, which, you know, I think everybody is saying that is a lot, right? So thinking about how do you do that? How do you still make sure that people are informed or can get the information? But sometimes there's a mistake with the agenda. It needs to, and then it gets corrected or amended. So, you know, I think that is one thing that can help, but we'll still need to send out an email notification because not everybody's going to use the Google Calendar.
That's correct. Yeah.
For the chair, Evie, what about the older folks who aren't going to be able to manipulate the calendar, like when there's an amendment? So the commissioner says she has to cancel the meeting till 7 o'clock. We do an amendment on the agenda. They
I-
have
I-
to get emails.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about that. Yeah.
I think something like that, we would need to send a notification. I think for the marginal changes, a typo, you added another item to the agenda. I don't think that maybe warrants. I think the bar for sending an email could be a little higher. So like the small things on the margin, we could update on the calendar and save us a couple of emails here and there. I believe that is what Evie's saying. And I agree. Any other thoughts? Okay, so as the board office and the committee are kind of working through this calendar over the summer, we'll also come up with like maybe some best practices or some guidelines in terms of when we should send an email. I don't think it will be a very high bar, but I think just adding a little more discretion, I think could be a gain, I think, to many people's eyes. The last note I had here was about board discussion. I think what Florence just mentioned about having the opt-in list online soon will allow us to have these discussions online. Is that right, Evie?
You'll be able to email, yeah, like you could email your committee, you copy the board office, right? If there was something that you wanted to let people know about. I mean, if you just wanted to email someone anyway about something, unrelated, you can also do that as well. We can't conduct meetings like
Right.
online, right? That's the main thing, which is, but there is, people definitely want to be able to contact other folks and communicate. But, board business, you can't you can't make decisions over email. You can't have like in-depth discussions on email or anything like that. But you can certainly share information. You can ask a question. You can do something like that. That's okay.
I think having those guidelines written out will be
Yeah.
helpful once this is online.
Yeah.
So, great. Anyone have any thoughts in general about anything? Anything at all?
I'm excited about this. Yeah, I'm glad that this committee is meeting now, and I look forward to doing this work with the executive committee, the board office, and all of you.
Great, thank you. Florence, I see your hand is up.
So just a statement. I know we're moving forward. I know we're not moving backwards. The purpose of old business, new business on the agenda was always to discuss whatever was done at a meeting previously, and new business was always to set up the future meeting. So for example, today you have your meeting. So under old business, new business, you would then move forward and start talking about your agenda with your committee and come to your consensus about what the next committee meeting would be, rather than having to do it over email. That was the purpose of old business, new business. And sometimes it looks like from the outside looking in that the old business, new business is not utilized for what it was meant to be utilized for originally. Just saying, kind of information. I don't know if it's ever been thought about.
That's new to me. Is this old business, new business? It's not a requirement that it is on the agenda, right?
You should always put it on because
okay.
You should give people an opportunity if there's something that wasn't on the agenda that they want to talk about, like you want to put it on there, right? So maybe someone is like, maybe even, the conversation, it's like, oh, as we were, kind of talking about that, or I came across something, I wanted to share something, here's an item that I'd like us to explore in the future. People can certainly do that. You want to have it there. Maybe there's nothing for people to talk about, but you at least want to have it there to give people the opportunity if there wasn't something on the agenda. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily just to create the next meeting's agenda, just to give people an opportunity to.
Yeah, it can be both of
Speak your
those
mind.
things too, but that is
Okay.
part of it, right? Like if you give people an
Okay.
opportunity. So if it's like, I'm on this committee and it's like, okay, great, we talked about all these things, but one of the things that we didn't talk about was, I don't know, direct mail, let's just say, right? So then it'd be like, could we, look at that at our next meeting or get into that, more in depth? Or it could be, we talked about social media, this time, can we at our next meeting actually look at the analytics? Do you know what I mean? So people can kind of like
Yeah,
feed ideas
I
there.
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if it was old business might be like, hey, at our last meeting, we said we were going to talk about analytics, but we didn't do it. So when are we going to do it? Oh,
I
can we
see.
talk about it
Yeah.
now? Do you know what I mean? Maybe it
Yeah.
was forgotten to be put on the agenda. So
I think maybe this, I hadn't heard about old business, new business being discussed in this way. I think just, I don't want to even say a training, just a refresher in terms of what this is needed, but used for, I think would be helpful for the
I
board.
have a guide that I'm putting together for all the committee
Oh,
chairs. So
excellent.
it's
Thank
almost
you.
done.
Yeah. On that note, in terms of new business, I think it would be good to have that social media guideline or sort of best practices or strategy as a discussion point for our next meeting. Anyone else have anything to add under old new business?
I would just say that it might be good to just encourage, other board members to send any thoughts that they have about this as well. It's a busy time
Okay.
of year, so people might not have been able to attend, or maybe they didn't really want to talk during the meeting, but it could be that, an email goes, it doesn't have to be right now, but in July or something, it's like, hey, we're looking at these things. If you have any thoughts,
That makes sense.
send them my way, something like that. If you wanted to, I know
Yeah.
you've already been talking to people, but to, just to see what other people might think as well, if they want to have that opportunity.
That makes a lot of sense. So I will talk to Florence to figure out what the best way to reach out is. Anyone else?
Good meeting.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Thank you, Hugh.
Of course. This is my first meeting as a chair. Do we need someone to? No motions, no seconding.
No,
Okay.
you can just adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
It's we're not, voting, like meeting in person or anything like that, where there's
I
a
see.
quorum and all that kind of stuff. So, but you can still adjourn the meeting if you want. If you want to knock a gavel down, go ahead, go for it.
All right. First one's in the books. Thank you everyone for very thoughtful questions and feedback. I'm looking forward to working with you over the next few months to work on our communication. So thanks everyone for your time.
Thanks, Hugh.
Great.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.